Okay, so this is part 2 of the texture creation part of the taxi creation videos. um, so we're back here with the texture we ended with. I was going to show you one other thing on this before I moved on. Well, first of all, I just want to point out again that things such as the markings, so the markings, those will all be on different on a different texture sheet. Uh, I think I can leave the where on there though. So, but the markings, gonna leave that for a different texture sheet, and you'll see when we get to applying when we come to applying the textures in Gmax, you'll see that why that's a good idea. One other thing I forgot to mention is that one thing you can do with these textures is you take the paintbrush, at least with these asphalt textures. Let's create a new layer off of our asphalt layer. We can take just a regular, maybe the hardest brush, make a really small make it, let's see, you need to reselect the brush. Alright, make this brush quite small here. Maybe not quite that small, but alright, and kind of add these kind of lines through the pavement. You'll see in asphalt pavement that not the way they pave it in rows sometimes, and so I'll kind of leave these kind of rows in the pavement, and you can kind of emulate that in your texture. Of course, I'm just kind of giving you an example. I'm not taking enough time. In reality, you'd want your lines to be straight up and down so they repeat nicely. Alright, but then you just bring down the opacity of this layer. There, just something like that, and then you might just take the eraser. You don't want to see the lines the whole time, because sometimes they kind of form together a little bit in places, and sometimes they don't. So you kind of break up the lines a little bit. And just something like that. And that's a pretty neat effect right there. Just wanted to mention that real quick. So besides that, here we have a new texture. This is 2048 by 2048. So we need to start working on a concrete texture. It's fair to say right now that I've only made about 2, maybe 3 concrete textures in my experience. So I'm not exactly too sure what I'm doing here, but I'm just gonna experiment with some things and see if I can turn out anything. So actually, what I'm going to do right now, I downloaded some concrete textures. It's under concrete on CG Textures. I downloaded those. Let's see. Looking for the folder. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and open all 3 of these, just so they're there. Alright, this one I'm pretty interested in. Fairly interested in this one. I think I could do something with that. And not too sure about this one. This one doesn't look quite, not exactly quite what I want. So I think the first thing, I have another texture here set up. This is 512 by 512. And so the idea is concrete is, you know, kind of a whole bunch of, I'll show you a picture here because I don't know how I'm going to explain it. Let's see, go to images here and find it. You can see right here, concrete, there's a bunch of just little squares within the concrete. So I'm thinking I'm going to fit 4 squares into a 2048 texture. So that means that each square is 512 by 512. And so I'm going to create, I'm taking 4 different unique squares and then I'm going to bring them all into here, into a nice big texture. I'm going to at least create one here. Alright, so I think the first thing, because I don't think we can just use these raw, I think what we're going to do, we're going to first go to pick out a gray color. Something like that. Fill that in. Then go to filters. This time it wasn't necessary for me to set the color to transparency, so I didn't. Filters, let's see here, noise. Say HVS noise. I'm going to bring up the value of this until we get a nice kind of grainy look in this preview. Yeah, okay. A lot of times I'll bring the value nearly all the way, saturation, not that far because I make it kind of this different colors, but we want maybe halfway, hue. You know, it's going to try and get as grainy as we can, really. Holding this, it kind of holds the kind of colors, color variation. I like to put that up quite a ways too when I do this. Alright, so that looks pretty good. It may be a little dark, but we'll just, in fact, we'll adjust the color right now since we're at it. Let's see here. That's not what we want. We want hue, saturation, lightness. There we go. Change, and we're gonna might bring down the saturation. If you think it might help, there's not a whole lot to desaturate in a gray color. I think we'll just leave the hue at 0. Alright, that looks good. I want to start out with this texture, so I'm going to just say Control C. Then we're going to go over to our texture. Say Control V. Obviously we're going to have to scale this down. Let's see here. We know the width is going to be 512, so let's just say 512 for now. To new layer, our layer is way over here, we need to move it back over. So you can move it over here. Alright. One thing we should do so we get some accurate placements is add some guides. So we're going to do that right now. Always like to have ones in the center. Let's see, ones on surrounding the sides. Alright, 2 more. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now this texture should snap into place. Whoops, don't want to move the guide. We get a nice accurate placement of that texture. Alright, of course we need to duplicate this texture. Bring it down here. Let's merge these two down now. That fit together pretty seamlessly. Alright, and we're just going to bring the opacity down so let some of that bottom layer show through. And that right there, I mean, I'm pretty happy with just the way that's looking so far. We get a nice kind of grain to this concrete. Now we don't really have to worry about tiling because in concrete they got these grooves, and so the grooves on each tile should match up seamlessly with the tile next to it, so we don't really have to worry too much about the main part of the texture being seamless or not. But we do need to add grooves, so why don't we just do that right now. We can go to a new layer. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. We could just do a selection. We can select all, and then say border, and we could add a border to this. Let's just try 10. And that's too big. But what we might do, we might just leave it at that. We'll just change our color to black. Let's try this. We're going to use our blend tool with, we're going to set this to FG to transparent. Okay, I like to keep on my layers tab after that. Okay, we're just going to go the width of the selection there. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay, same thing here. Hold down the control so we get a nice, so it snaps to a nice straight line. So we're going to click while holding down control, then that way it snaps kind of into nice places. Snap it on the straight there, and then release. Alright, there we go. We can go ahead and select all now, and we'll change the opacity of this layer a little bit. And that's looking pretty good. That's turned out pretty nice there. We might even, okay. And then we want maybe just a real hard edge. So let's create a new layer. Again, we're doing new layers for everything. Let's change the size to 5. Alright, let's just set a nice round number. So we're just going to say 5. Just type it in. 5, press enter. We'll just take our brush. We might leave just, we might use this brush. I don't know if we want the hard one or not. We might, but we'll just see how this looks. So we're just going to get a nice, real dark, where the groove is really deep. Okay. What we want to do now, though, is probably add some just kind of cracks, some dirt, stuff on this. So let's go ahead and do that. We can create another layer. We'll put this right above the concrete layer. We can use our pencil. Straight black would probably do fine. Let's just set our size to 2. Whoops, so we want this to be 0. There we go. That's still too big. Let's set our size even smaller. Let's just try. Let's see if 1's any better. That looks fairly good. Let's just, we're just gonna do some random marks here. I mean, like, super random. We're gonna do lots of them and see what happens. I'm not really sure. You're just gonna have to try things and see how it works out. I'm actually surprised by how it's looking already. Usually things don't turn out too well the first time, but it's not working. It's working pretty well. Make sure you kind of get an even distribution of these, whatever they are. Alright, and then we can just bring down the opacity of these. Right now, we want to be fairly faint. There, just like that. That looks good. Alright, so we're just going to add more. So that just gives a little more dimension to our texture. Alright, now out of curiosity, let's just see what happens if we copy this and put it beneath. Whoops, that's not what we wanted to do. Let's go back to our texture. There we are. And just paste it in here. Save to new layer. Let's move this below our main concrete layer. And let's just, let's scale this. Let's see, right click on this, scale layer. And we'll scale it by height this time, and then just cut off any excess on the width. Alright, I'm going to say layer. Whoops, but first we need to move our layer. Whoops, let's rescale that actually. Say 512, scale. There we go. Now let's move our layer over here. Just going to move it right there. And we are going to say layer to image size just to cut off the axis. Alright, and let's just bring down the opacity. Let's just give a little more shading interest to the texture. And that's looking pretty good right there. I'm actually liking that pretty well. So what we might do, we'll just say edit copy visible. We'll go into this. We need to add some guides to this texture, primarily the ones in the middle. So 50% on the horizontal, one halfway on the vertical. Alright, don't need to, well, we'll just call it alpha just because I like to make a habit of that. Alright, layers, transparency, color to alpha. Alright, now we have we copied the visible, so that's everything you see here. We're going to paste it in here. It's actually a lot smaller than I thought it'd be. You know? And actually I just realized that's because this is 512 across here. Should actually be a 1024 by 1024, but maybe you want to have 8 different tiles in here. And that way you can even edit the repetitiveness even more. So that might be a good idea. Let's just put 8 different tiles in here. So we're going to add more guides. Let's set one 25%. Kind of make kind of a tic-tac-toe board here. 75. Alright, let's just move this one here. We're gonna set that to a new layer. Okay, duplicate the layer, move it over, and the way I kind of remember concrete being, they have this grain in the concrete, but then the one right next to it, the grains go in the opposite direction. So we're gonna layer, transform, rotate 90 degrees. Alright, let's go ahead and just merge that one down with the other one. And then we can just duplicate that, move it over. We can merge those down, duplicate that layer. Okay, merge it down. Whoops, you know what? We don't want to do that because then we need to change the way the grain. So let's go ahead and copy one of these here. Alright, that should work. Say Control C, Control V. New layer. That one goes right here. Alright. This is actually working out pretty well, guys. I wasn't really anticipating it to be going as well as it is right now. Alright, let's just duplicate this, move it over. Say layer, transform, rotate 90 degrees, merge it down. Okay, duplicate it. Alright, and then merge down. Now we'll take this layer here, duplicate it, drag it down, and then all we have to do is duplicate. Let's see, I think it's this. Well, is it that layer? I think it is. Nope. Let's see here. Which one is that? You can just take the move tool and click on that layer, and you'll see it jumps right here in the layer tab. Alright, duplicate that. That's looking pretty darn good. Now the thing I'm noticing here, you can kind of we're starting to see the repetition in the texture. So you see, like, well, there's that same thing here, it's there. It's not too bad. What we'll probably do, though, we'll go back into this, and let's smudge with the layer. It's the layer we added beneath the main concrete. We can smudge this dark spot out some. So we take the smudge tool, up the size of the brush, just smudge that dark spot out. So it kind of changes the texture up a little bit. In fact, I need to remember what the opacity was set to before I changed it. I'm trying to see. Well, it won't make too much of a difference, but we're gonna say keep it at 30 for now on. From now on, though. All right. So we kind of broke it up there. Say edit, copy visible. Okay, then we say let's merge all these down while we're at it. Okay, let's Control V. I didn't get that copied, it doesn't seem like. Let's see if we can. In fact, we need to keep redoing some things here. In fact, I made a little mistake here because I messed it up. So we'll just fix it. Alright. You always do, there's always some mistake you're going to make, so. Alright, let's say layer to image size. In fact, now, since we're even there, since we did make a mistake, let's just move it to make it a little different than the last one. Let's move this so it clips off this side of the texture. So we're going to say layer to image size now. And we're going to bring the opacity up on that. Set to like 70 or something. Alright, let's say edit, copy visible. We'll go back into our texture here. I'm going to go ahead and save this right now before I before GIMP crashes or something and I lose it all. I'm going to call this, let's see here. Let's call it concrete1 underscore 1. There we go. Alright, so we copied that. We're going to say Control V to paste it in. And we're going to put this in a few random spots. We might, set the new layer. We might duplicate it. Say transform. And we'll set one maybe right here. We'll duplicate it again. Let's put one. In fact, we didn't want to put that one right here because you can see now we have two of the same with the grain going the same way. But we'll put one. Well, we'll put one right here. And we'll need to move this one someplace else. In fact, let's just move it right there. And that's breaking it up some. We could probably add one more. So we'll duplicate. Let's see here. Forget which one we duplicated here. It's this one down here. And we could put one. It wouldn't hurt to put one here or one there. We could duplicate it again. Say layer, transform, rotate. Move one right here. We can merge those all down. I don't know, guys. I'm starting to think that concrete textures are easier to make than asphalt, which I didn't really expect, and it may not be. I just may got lucky. Let's hide the guides. We're going to say view, unhide or hide the guides. That groove might just be a little too harsh. What I can do, I don't think I have to replace the tiles or re-edit this tile over here, then make a whole bunch of new ones in here. What I think I can do, I think I can just select the black, and I can, in fact, let's select this black too. There. And let's say colors. We could just bring up the brightness. Let's just bring up the brightness. Same thing as lightening it. Lightening the color. That looks better. Let's select all and see how that looks. Oh yeah, that's looking a lot better. Alright, so maybe you want just some general wear over the entire thing here. Let's go ahead and show guides again. So the question is, what kind of wear would we want? Whoops, I just checking my YouTube upload here. I have pretty slow internet, so it's going to take a long time. So I'm trying to decide what kind of wear we could put on here. Well, gotta think about this for a while. Well, we all just had to try something, so in fact, let's just try some dirt. Let's just try dirt or something like that. So we're going kind of browns. We have some preset colors here, it looks like. Pick kind of a gray brown. Something like that. It doesn't matter, we can always delete it if we don't like it. So we're just going to say a new layer. Let's see. I'll check that edge. That looks good. Okay. What if we just said, just take our brush. I like this brush quite a bit. This has a nice pattern to it. Let's just maybe just some small splotches like that. Maybe not so much. Maybe we want to just increase the size. Something like this. Yeah, I think we're good. We'll just I was trying to keep them inside the tiles, but I'm thinking, well, you know, I don't think it's too important. We'll see. Make some larger. We want some of the smaller ones over here too. Keep things kind of congruent. Alright, now we'll make some larger ones. I don't think we want too many, but we just want to kind of get an even amount. Just like that. Then we might, let's see. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but we had like a big piece of farm equipment roaring by on the road there. The windows open, you might have been able to hear that, I'm not sure. But that's okay, because these are pretty pretty casual tutorials. Just gonna keep editing this. Gotta smudge that. Leave some of the harder edge stuff, but smudge some of it. I think it's a good idea. Good plan. Let's bring down the opacity. That looks pretty cool. So, you know, I think that will work for a pretty good concrete texture. If I do any edits or anything, I'll let you know in one of the videos, you know, who knows when. But, that's looking pretty good, so let's see. What else could we do, if anything? Well, you know what? I'm kind of curious as to what a taxi line would look like on here, so I'll just let's copy this layer, this taxi line here. Just want to see what it looked like on here. Whoops, that didn't work too well. Let's try selecting all. Copy this. Say to new layer. And that's gonna look pretty cool, guys. I think. You know, I think I'm gonna break down the opacity on all the taxi lines just a little bit. because obviously the texture is kind of gonna show through the paint. So because you obviously don't want them too bright like this, because that just doesn't look quite right. And that's pretty right there. You might kind of add. Well, no, we'll just kind of just leave it like that. I think that looks really good, guys. I think. I'm pretty surprised, actually. Surprised myself there. It actually went a lot quicker than I thought. Alright, we don't have too much more to cover here before we finish this video. But we're here looking at our first just retileable asphalt texture, which we then created this out of. Used that to create this texture. But what we need to do, we need to create an edge texture for this right here, and that'll make more sense when we come to applying the textures in Gmax, but at the moment, just bear with me here. We're going to go into the texture we just created, or this texture, yeah. And we're going to select, the edge of the texture. In this case, left edge. I guess, you could do either edge. Of course, we're have the just the asphalt layer selected. And we're going to say Control C, Control V, whoops, Control C, and then Control V on this new layer, which is the same size as the other textures. Say Control V. Let's add a couple guides here. One on the vertical, 0, and one on the horizontal. That looks good. We'll snap this into place right there. That looks like about right. Say to new layer. And so that's all we needed to do there. One thing I want to check. Let's see, what happened to all our layers here? Oh well, we'll just there we go. Alright. I just want to check to make sure we did have the wear or the dirt and all that on different layers. I'm hoping we did. Yeah, there we go. So it is. And that pretty much wraps up the texture creation for our taxiways. The one thing I didn't show you is I placed all the taxiway markings onto it's their own texture. So like you take like all the taxi lines, which will only need that one taxi line, and I'll be able to show you those. I'll be able to show you the texture later when we apply them, so you can at least see what it looks like. But I just took the taxi line and put it on its own texture with transparency, and name that like taxi markings or something, just to make it its own. Yeah, but other than that, that's pretty much about it for the textures. Obviously, there's a bunch of other different markings on taxiways and stuff that I didn't get to, and obviously I don't have time to show everything, but should give you a pretty good idea. And this is a fairly it's pretty much covers everything I do in GAMP pretty much. Anyhow, I hope these tutorials are useful. You can stay updated on my Facebook page, SAS Creations on Facebook. And yeah, just any questions you can comment. Yeah, and we'll try and get the modeling videos finished up, and then on to exporting into Flight Simulator. Alright, so just stay tuned. Thanks a lot.